Okay, good morning, and I think at this point I have everybody's business plan approved, or I asked a question or two, or asked you to add a little industry stuff. Is that clear? Everybody had one posted, I believe. Okay, and I've responded to them and asked for you to do something else to, did you post yours? Posting. Okay. All right, so I think we're good to go. I'm going to let you guys decide today what your peer groups want to be. And I suggest that you do it based on the business that the person's going into, also what their concentration is. You might not want to have 3 accountants in one group, so you can give some good feedback, maybe mix it up and have a marketing person, accounting, and management. But it's up to you because I don't want to have to deal with peer group stuff. And it's not like you have to meet outside of class or anything. You're actually just going to evaluate someone in your peer. Now, what I find that students get doing, if there's 3 people in a peer group, they like to peer group or evaluate all of them. And so they really get a sense of, finding neat stuff to add to theirs. So you actually learn as you're trying to teach someone or give other people feedback. So it's a good process. I'm only requiring that you do one, but I've found that over the years, students like to evaluate everybody in their group so they feel good about it. Now, if everyone in your group has been evaluated and someone hasn't turned it in your group and there's nobody for you to evaluate, it's up to you to either evaluate the person again, that's already been evaluated, or go out to another group because you need to get your points for evaluating. So if someone that you normally evaluates didn't post in time, don't let that have a reflection on you. Go find somebody else and evaluate theirs outside of your group or someone else in your group. Okay? So it's okay for a plan to be evaluated by more than one person. So I don't want you to lose points because someone else didn't post in time. Right? We're okay on the posting times that you'll be posting peer reviews on 22nd by February 2nd by midnight will be the first one, and then you do your review by noon on February 4th, and that'll be the routine each week. So for those of you online, I've put the requirements for peer reviewing. I'm going to make another video to put up there to show you exactly how to do it. I'm going to demo in class how you're going to peer review and how to do track changes in Word. So I'll try to make a video here before you need to do it for the online students. And also, you have lots of business plans for the online students that are already posted online on Moodle. So please choose from those. And I developed your peer groups last night, so you're set to go. All right, things I want to talk about today. First, I'd kind of like to back up a little bit. I jumped into the course right away on Monday, and I want to back up a little bit. Many of you know me, many of the people online don't, but for those that don't know me in here too, I want to give you a little bit about my background. My full name is Donna. I hope that you all know that by now. You're in the class, it's written on the syllabus. But my background is in small business. I owned several small businesses. That's what I did before I came back to teach. So I've been in the small business world for a long time. Since I was 18, I started managing businesses. I actually purchased my first house when I was 19. And then I decided to then come back and go to school and get my PhD. And my PhD is actually in technology. But my love has always been business. So this part of the class, or this class that I teach, is really a love of mine because the small business is what I grew up knowing and doing, and I have a lot of entrepreneurs in my family, so small business is part of what we do. And some of you probably come from parents that are small business owners or large business owners, and so it gets in your blood and you can't really get away from it. So this is how I get it out. I don't do small businesses anymore, but I definitely get to teach and talk about it a lot, so I enjoy that. My other great love is automobiles, and I have several, and I love cars. So if any of you want to change your idea to an automotive shop, I love talking about that. So I was in the automotive industry for 15 years, and that's where I also had my business. I'm a certified mechanic, which I don't like to be told much, because then all of a sudden people come up to me and say, my car's clicking like this. Yeah, that's great. Well, you just turn the radio up louder and it'll be okay. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. I've also traveled extensively. I think I'm up to 27 countries that I've visited. I've been traveling since I was a young child, went to school in the Canary Islands, also went to school for a short time in England. Just lost the name of the place. That camera thing is just getting me. In Southampton. And so I've traveled a lot. I also teach the international business class when I'm not overloaded with 499. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. So I do have some business knowledge from the real world to bring it in. So when I'm giving you advice and stuff, you know, it may not pertain directly, and you're willing to argue with me. In my industry, that's not how things are done, but I love those debates. I love playing the devil's advocate. What are you going to do in this situation? So hopefully that's the kind of feedback we can give each other. Okay? All right, so today what we're going to do is talk a little bit about the first 3 chapters in the book. And they're really talking about how to put together a successful plan. And you guys can read this, so I'm not going to go through it all. There's some worksheets there. I don't expect that you do those. But reading this, even though it's kind of the introduction part, really has some good things that you can look out for. The business plan process is also here, more about gathering information. And we talked about 3 main ways that you should gather information. And what were those 3 ways? Trade associations. Remember, we added trade associations. And when we talk about online, we need to be careful. That's not the .coms. That's really going into library databases and getting some card evidence. And then we added another one. Also, some of you have taken the class in the SOU, the BAO. So that is also another resource. So it talks about how to gather information, where to gather it. Another place, source for you guys is the Small Business Development Center. It's located in the Higher Ed Center in Medford. You can also contact them via email for those of you online, but the Small Business Development Center has a lot of resources. It's all free, and they deal with small business owners of the Valley who want to go into business, and they give them classes, they give them advice, they have lots of handouts. And as you see on Moodle, I have a spot that says SBDC, and that's some of the handouts that they give. So looking through those may help you as well. So lots of ways you can gather information. So that's mainly what the chapter 2 talks about, and gives you some more ideas of where to get information. When we get into chapter 3, it talks more about making the plan compelling. And that kind of goes back to that elevator pitch too. You got to be able to say something that gets someone's attention. So when you're writing this, you really need to make sure it's a compelling plan, because most plans are written because you either want to take out a loan or you want to go into to find an investor. So making the plan compelling is really important. It talks about that. It also talks about the length of the plan. Students ask me a lot, how long does this plan need to be? And I say long enough. Okay? It can't be, all the aspects need to be there. I don't need it to be 50 pages and you're going to get an A. You could probably do one in 12 pages. You know, it'd be a little difficult, but if you write concise and thorough and compelling, then do it. I don't want the fluff and the extra stuff if it's not needed. Okay, so make sure that you're putting in there good information. Don't try to fill spaces with just extra stuff because you think it needs to be longer. So it needs to be as long as it needs to be concise, thorough, and understand the business when we're finished with it. So I recommend you read those 3 chapters. They're real quick reads. They are only a few pages long, and that way you can get maybe some information on how to do those things, some new places to search, or some compelling type of ways to present your plan. We also talked last time about writing out the outline, which is what's also listed here today. How many of you typed that outline already? Wow. 2? You listened to me?
We still have a little bit left.
Okay, that's okay. We'll give you credit for it.
Okay.
Okay, so the outline, which I talked about, I still suggest that you type it. There may be sections in there that you eliminate later because they don't apply to your business. That's fine, but having those placeholders I really think is a good idea. So make sure, it looks like The outline in your version is on page 373 through 375 if you're in the 5th edition. The bibliography, which should be known as the reference list, which we talked about last time, is in chapter 17, and that is something that you probably need to start thinking about, things that go into, especially the appendix. What kind of things do you think you're going to put into the appendix of your paper?
Any figures you use or charts?
Well, maybe and maybe not. If they may go within the body of the paper. What determines what goes into the appendices?
Any information that isn't in the business plan, but you want to document what you put in the business plan?
Maybe, for instance, what would that be?
Expenses.
That'll go in your assumptions, and that is in appendices, yes. What else? It's usually things the plan can stand alone without it, but if someone is curious and wants more detailed information, that is provided in the appendice. For example, maybe you've identified people that are going to be managers in your business, and you have their resumes. Okay? The resumes could go in appendix. Maybe the floor plan of the business. Maybe a picture of the outside of the location. Things like that. So the plan can stand alone. It's not dependent on the appendix for most things. Now in our case, the financials and the assumptions are going to go in the appendix, so the plan is counting on that. But for the most part, that's how you look at it. It's more of something, if you're curious about this further, then you go to the appendix. Right? So it tells you different things in here about appendices and guidelines for using the appendix. It talks here, content options, letters of intent. If someone is telling you that they're going to purchase or do business with you, or they're going to sell you product, letters of intent would go in there. Any types of endorsements, because if you go into a bank, you might want to get endorsements from other business people to show that you're credible and understand that business. There's photographs, as we talked about, extra market research, resumes. Lots of different things that I just mentioned are also in here, but most of like work schedules. If they're really trying to figure out work schedules for people, that may go in there. The bibliography, which we talked about, we're really going to call in here a reference list, because a reference list is anything that you actually cite in the paper, you actually then want to have it in the reference list, or also called works cited. So make sure that you add everything that you're using. Please remember to read over how to paraphrase, when to use quotes, which is very minimal. Avoid any of those things that may consider it plagiarized just because you didn't cite it properly, even though you might have paraphrased it. So make sure that you've got it going. There's some reference builders in the library that you can use. There's also reference builders that are now incorporated into many of the Word document programs. So you can use those, and I highly recommend it. I'm not going to be so picky as to you missed a comma when it should have gone here, or a period, but it needs to look pretty close. What I don't want is just a whole list of websites. There's a proper way to format websites. There's a proper way to put index citations as well. So make sure that you're following those instructions. I would say that if you have less than 10 resources in your paper, you probably didn't do a really good industry analysis. Because you're going to pick up things, and 10's pushing it, but I would shoot for 10. I'm not going to count off if you hit 8 or 9, but I think 10's a good number. That we get stuck on IBIS World, and IBIS World has a lot of great information, but try to go beyond IBIS World and get some other types of resources too. And Connie will help you with that through all the databases on Monday. Interviews. Any questions about your interviews after you had a chance to think about it and look? You're all okay? You've identified some people that maybe you can contact? All right, that'll be our
Can we do more than one?
You can do as many as you like. And I suggest more than one, because this is just pure information that's going to help you. You know, they're gonna give you information about what they've done. I had a student do a barbershop in the summer, similar to what you're considering, where it was more of a sports bar, where you served alcohol and the whole deal. That, he found that to be very successful. He was gonna do it in Medford, so we'll have to see what the population is. It's Anchorage, right, that you're gonna do it, or?
It's
No?
actually Kodiak.
Kodiak's a little smaller, yeah. Yeah, okay. All right. But don't people want to keep their hair long in Kodiak to keep their
It's not
ears
that
warm?
cold. It's
Okay.
not that cold.
I just want to make sure you didn't talk yourself out of a business. All right. So any questions about interviews? We're all good with the interviews? Okay. Any questions about the business plan evaluation as far as what you're going to know to do? We're going to look through the plans here. You'll grab them, you get into your groups. I want you to fill out a paper, tell me who's in each group, and that's how we'll continue our peer groups. So what you'll do, you'll read the instructions online, there's the evaluation sheet, and then you'll put together a 4-slide PowerPoint presentation. Introduction, what worked, what didn't work, would you invest or not, and why or why not. Pretty simple. But the more you can review that and get something out of it, would be great. And then on Monday, we'll all meet in the library in room 113, and Connie will go over her spiels with you, and then she'll be there for you to continue researching the rest of the time in there. And so she's right there to answer any questions to help you with anything. And you might want to even go ahead, while we're in that session, try to log on to SOU so that we can find out if you've got the proper way of logging on and playing with it a little bit. And maybe some of you that have taken the class on SOU can walk around and kind of help a little bit, just to get them familiar and say, these are some of the things you can do. That would be great. All right? How are we all feeling? Okay, I gave you a lot of information on Monday. Hopefully this will give you time to digest that and feel a little better and refine anything you need to on your business idea. Okay. For those of you online, please make sure you watch Connie's videos. There's 2 of them listed on her webpage that I have posted on Moodle. And then there's also information about SOU, also known as BOA, BAO, the Business Analyst Program. So make sure you get those done. Make sure you get all your business plan ideas replied to me if you needed to do anything else on that. So I will see you guys online, probably not again until Wednesday. Have a good weekend.